I,
Yeah.
I want to ask a question that popped into my head when we, got started. That's not on the paper.
Hmm.
And I'll give a little background for people listening. Like, you were one of the first people to really inform me about, what is being, and I say the term in air quotes because America is America, critical race theory and the proper telling of history and different perspectives. Um, Obviously, I'm sure you've seen how, divisive that has become in America, and how what you taught me it was, and what I try to do and teach my kids is different from what the media and politics say critical race theory is. So, do you mind just maybe giving your perspective from the outside of, again, what critical race theory and that pursuit of, telling people stories in the right way is, and what it looks like from the outside when you look at the way America is handling it?
Yeah, it's such a yeah, I don't mind talking about it. I know it's such a touchy topic in America. And not, you know what, not just America, like we've had the conversations in our schools internationally, and there's lots of panels that are happening internationally where we're talking about um, equity, which is not critical race theory. And there's talk about like diversity, and I just find it strange. Like I think one of the main things that I noticed in America, and I honestly try not to look anymore because it just honestly it hurts my heart thinking about the number of kids that aren't going to be able to get opportunities to to get the simple things that we feel that are granted to them in life, like books. Like when you are like the big band on like the different types of books. Um, I have a really hard time understanding, and I just don't get how people think it's okay to erase someone else's story. I just find that really, I just don't get it. I just really, really don't get it. I don't have the words to even explain how sad that is, because there's so many kids that are going to be um, that could value from that book. And then on top of that, there's so many kids that need to read that book to understand those kids as well. So you're just like erasing so many people, um, so many kids in their opportunities just to understand themselves and people that are similar to them by deciding that these types of ideas, which isn't critical race theory, shouldn't be in the classroom. It's really heartbreaking, to be honest. It's really heartbreaking. I don't know exactly what's happening in each state. I know that certain states are a little bit more, I don't know what the word is, I guess angry than others about the types of books that kids are reading or the type of content that's being taught. But I guess my question is like, what do you say to all of those kids that aren't white in your classrooms? Like that their history and their backgrounds don't matter. Again, when we think about kids in the classroom in regards to elementary, middle school, high school, the idea of how we don't talk about a theory in how white people, like, I think the word is like governing or um, construct ideas or systems behind like the laws or behind the like the big things in which how they affect people of color or those who identify in like um, the BIPOC category. Like we, that's not what we do as educators. Like as elementary, middle school, high school teachers, we don't do that. Um, we talk about equity, which is very very different. We talk about um, we talk about like identity in understanding like who we are as people. We talk about like injustices in the world and why they happen and what we can do to stand up to those things. And those things aren't theories. Like these are, we often use people who have done these things in the world as examples, and we relate to them through books. And when people say that we're teaching these kids like a theory, and they often say that we're like teaching like kids to hate white people, that doesn't, it just doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
Again, it just erases different perspectives. Like it literally says in most standards in school, like to have to teach different perspectives about things, and then have kids synthesize that information and come up with their own ideas on how they feel about it. But yeah, it's just again mind-boggling to really think that people believe that we're trying to brainwash kids to hate other people, and that's
Yeah,
what I continue to hear all the time.
the word they use here is indoctrinate. That we're trying to
Yes.
indoctrinate our kids. Um, and if Will were here, he would say we're trying to indoctrinate them with good character. But like for me, as a middle eighth grade social studies teacher, I'm getting these kids at a time when they're really starting to form their own ideas, but
Hmm.
those ideas are very informed by their parents. So me pointing out like, hey, redlining in housing in America is a verified historical practice that mortgage companies and banks and property managers did to ensure that people of color only lived in one neighborhood.
Exactly.
And there are stories around America now where the same house in a black neighborhood is not worth as much as the same house in a white neighborhood. That is institutional. That is a system that is biased against people of color. I can
Yeah.
teach my kids about how after World War II, after like the American army had already been integrated, the GI Bill wasn't extended to black soldiers.
Yeah.
Like I can show you historical fact, but
Mhm.
you know, parents go to school board meetings and they're shouting at the top of their lungs about how we're not going to teach our kids that being white is bad and we're not going to do this and we're not there's like critical race theory from everything I've read does not say anything about individual people. It talks like you said about institutions and systems.